Hello, welcome to another tutorial from Noice. Today I'm going to show you guys how to make a color switch game inside of Visual Studio using Windows Form and C#. So let's just take a quick look at the game. So you got these blocks coming through. I can press the space button to change the player color, and as long as it matches the color of the blocks, it goes through. Okay, and then let's just say, for example, if it doesn't match now, it's going to end the game, and it also shows you how much you scored and what time you scored that value. Okay, so let me just press R to restart the game. So I can go and change. I'm going to try and score a bit higher than what I did before. So as soon as the blocks hit the bottom of the screen, they get randomized to the top, and they also come up with a random color. Okay, let's go make a new project. So create a new project in Visual Studio. Make sure it's under Windows Form .NET Framework. Let's go say color switch game. Noice, that's fine. Let's click OK. Okay, so this is the default screen for the game. So let's just go make a few changes. We're going to set the width to 800 and height to 600. So that's going to be the canvas for the game. Let's change this title to color switch Noice. We don't have to do anything to the background, so that's okay. First thing we're going to need is we're going to need a panel. So we are going to be using a panel as the game display screen, similar to the one that we did for the top-down racing game. So if I can find the panel. Okay, so I'm just going to set it like this for now. So this one can be called game display. Let's change the name there. Gonna change the back color to black. Okay, right, that's fine for now. We also need a list box. So a list box is what we're going to use to show the score box. Might as well make it slightly smaller. Change the font size of this to say 12. Okay, so there's a label there. Call this one txt score. Change the font to 14. So this is going to basically show the score value for us, and that's going to save the save the recent score for us. I'll just make a copy of the score value here. So this is going to be the information where we tell the player how to play this game. So we're going to just change auto size first of all to false. So then I can manually give it a width so it doesn't go out of the bounds there. It's perfectly fine. Inside there I'm just going to press on the little down arrow key. So it gives me that space to add paragraphs of text if I need to. So say press space to change color. Press R to restart game. Okay, that's fine. Text align, we're going to make sure they're in the middle so it looks slightly better. Okay, one thing we need to change for this one is there's an option called enabled on there, and we need to change that to false. And the reason we need to do that is because if I start the game now, so as you can see, if the list box is active, then the Windows Form is automatically going to focus into that, and we don't want that because we want to be able to press the key to activate a picture box inside the game display panel here. So what we're going to do is we're going to disable this one. So we're going to change the enable to false, so that way once the window is loaded, we don't want the focus to go inside of this, we want the focus to be right here. Okay, so let's add one picture box first. drag it so it's the width is longer than the width of the game display. So I'm just going to change this one to red. Let's say, for example, move that maybe over there. Change the height to 30. Okay, I'm going to hold control and drag that down to this one here. Call this one yellow. Oh, sorry, give the background of yellow, no, call it yellow. And 30 is fine. Okay, so let's name this one block 1 and also add a tag called block. Name this one block 2 and also add a tag of block. So both of them got a block tag. Okay, so grab another picture box here, and this is going to be for the player, so you can make it as big as small as you need to. That's perfectly fine. For now, I think as default we'll just give the player back color of white so we can see in the background. Balanced, no, thank you. Okay, so we got the two blocks, got the player, to give the player name, so you got the player name there. Let's add a timer, so it's going to be called game timer. Interval set to 20, change that to main timer tick. So that's the event that we're adding to the timer, so every time it ticks it's going to run this event, so whatever instruction we put inside of it, it's going to run that. Let's click on the form. So we have experimented with key down and key up. I wanted to take a look at key press event today. So let's say key is pressed. I'll show you what the difference is. Okay, so we got key is pressed. So those are the two events that we really need for the game. Okay, so let's add our own custom function. So private void restart game. Okay, so this one is going to have all the default values for the game. So as it restarts, we're going to add the variables for this game. So one of the things we're going to do today is we're going to be using the system link. So we're going to be using a list. Right, so let's take a look at how lists work. So this list is going to hold color. So these are the American spellings. So in UK we spell it color with the U, but you know, we can spell it with the color with the O. That's fine. This is a type of an array, but it's more dynamic than a normal array that we use, and we have got a lot more control. But in this case, what we're going to do is we're basically going to add a few colors to it that the player is going to be shifting through. Okay, so let's go and make a random class here, and then we're also going to make another random called block position. Okay, so this first random class is going to be used to select a random color from this list here and apply it to the blocks, and this random one we're going to be using it to position the blocks randomly on top of the screen. Okay, let's say int I, int speed is equal to 5, int score is equal to 0. We have in location. And lastly we'll have boolean called game over. Okay, so these are the variables that we need for this game. Lastly, I'm going to call the restart function inside the game constructor, so whenever the form loads it's going to run this function, call block 1 and block 2 and set a position for them in the beginning of the game. Okay, so block 1 dot top, say minus 200, and block 2 dot top is going to be equals minus 750. Say game over is set to false in the reset. So here we're going to define the colors for this game. So you just say new list colors, right? So we'll just do a curly bracket. Yeah, so inside of these we can define which colors that we want. So one of the reasons mine is working with the colors is because I have the drawing enabled here. So I'm using the namespace drawings. So if you don't have it, if it says it can't find the colors, then you can easily just go and add that using system drawings, and that should add the colors namespace for you. So let's go in and select color red as the first one, color white as the second one, color purple as the third, and color yellow is the fourth color. So we'll only have about 4 colors to shift through. Okay, so let's give I is equal to 0, speed set to 8, score is equal to 0, and then score plus score. We also need to start the game timer. Okay, then so let's do the key pressed function. So we can say here if e.key char in this case, so it's not key code in key pressed. So because it's a different event than the key press, key down and key up event, right? So we have to look for the character of the key. So let's go cast a character here and say keys dot space, right? Okay, so that's how we look for the keys when they are pressed. So this one is only going to trigger the event once whenever it's pressed, regardless. So as soon as it goes down, it's only going to invoke it once. Okay, so we also need to look for if game over is equal to false. So if the game is still running and you're pressing the space key, okay. I think I'm missing a. Yep, that's it. Right, so what we're going to do is we're going to say I plus plus in this case. So we're going to add 1 to the I integer, and if I is greater than colors.count, right, minus 1. So what we're doing is we're going to go look for the length of the colors list here, right? That's been defined inside the reset function. And just going to minus 1 from there, so we don't want the I to go above the length of this list, right? So if that happens, then we're just going to reset I back to 0. Okay, and we just say player dot back color equals, so whatever the I value is at that time, we're going to change that to the back color of the player. Okay, because it's a list of colors, so we can easily just access that and then put it inside of there. So let's just take a look how that works. So if I go here now for space, see I can shift through, okay, red, white, purple, yellow, okay, pretty much all of them. Okay. I think I need to put that inside of that one there. I don't want that to happen just because of any key presses. I think I put it in the wrong place. It still worked, but I do need to make sure it stays inside the right places. Okay, there you go. So that should invoke only when the key space key is pressed and the game over boolean is set to false. Okay, so now let's go and do the AreKey, which is going to invoke the reset function. So if, once again, So once we check for the key character, if the AreKey character is pressed, right, and the game over is set to true. But sometimes if you have the cap locks on, this might be looking for the capital one, but we also need to look for the lowercase as well. So let's do that. Okay, so say for example here, if we, again, so in this case we're going to say, I think it's going to be 2 lower, yeah. So we're going to say 2 lower, and then inside of that we're going to say character, and then now we need to find the AreKey. So even if the cap lock is on, sorry, even if it's on lowercase, we also need to find out if that works. So this way we can make sure, like, regardless of how the keyboard is set up, as long as the AreKey is pressed, we can run a event. Okay, so, and then obviously if both of those conditions are met, we can just simply run the restart button. So it's not going to restart just because the player has pressed it. The game over boolean will have to be true as well. Okay, so now like we can move on to the main timer. Okay, so let's keep score first. So let's go. So this way it keeps the score up to date. We're going to be running a for each loop. So let's do that first. So let's do a for each, Control X in. Okay, say if X is, of course, picture box, right? Okay, so if X is a picture box and it has a tag called block, if it does, then we're going to move it downwards using the speed variable. Okay, so now we need to check if plus height is, let's say, greater than this client size height, right? So if it has left the scene, so that means that, you know, if it's left the scene, then we're just going to be repositioning it back to the top. In order to do that, because there's 2 different blocks, we need to make sure that they don't overlap so much. So they might still overlap here and there, but we just need to make sure there's minimum, so it doesn't disrupt the gameplay so much. So that's why we create the location integer. So we're going to say inside the location integer, so block position, that's the random number generated there. So between, say, 400 and 600. And then we're also going to add, so 3 is going to be multiplied by block position, generate another random number. So 150 by, let's say, 250. Okay, so I'm just going to go here and say location times -1. So that way we don't have to do the calculations right inside of the location, right inside of the top part. We can just put it inside of a location integer and then add the location integer to the top. Okay, let's say extra back color equals, let's say, colors, and then to 0 and colors up. Okay, so we're still going to be running the array from here. So what we can say is the x.backColor is going to be a random, so we're just going to randomly pick a value from colors.count from inside of it. So we're using a square bracket here in the beginning, and inside of that we got rnd.next, that's generating a random number, and then inside of that little small bracket we got 0, which is the minimum value, and the maximum value is colors.count. So if you look at the block positions, we're using a similar thing here. So it goes to block next. So it's going to find a minimum value of 400 and maximum of 600. So it's going to do that. And the second one, minimum of 150, maximum of 250, and it's going to multiply that by 3, and then it's going to position the blocks accordingly from there and assign the value right here. And we're just using a shorthand right here because we only have 4 different values inside of it, so we don't need another integer just to calculate that. Okay, so let's try and see. So I think what I wanted to is add one to the score here as well. Okay, so now let's run this and see if this actually works. Okay, so if I can't see the blocks. Oh, I think I see the problem. Basically the problem is I'm running the loop to find the controls inside the main form, but I should be finding the controls inside the display. Okay, because the panel has its own controls and these ones are attached to the panel, as you can see, right? So we need to be able to run the loop inside the panel instead of running the loop through the form, because the panel is sort of protecting the children inside of it. Okay, so what I need to do is say game display dot controls, yeah, instead of this dot controls. Okay, that's actually my mistake. So let's try that now. Okay, so that's coming through. Okay, so when they go down, I'll just pick another random image, sorry, random color image. I think probably comes up with the same color multiple times. So what we'll do is we'll create another integer here, say block color, right, and then say here block color equals, actually I'm just going to copy that from here. Okay, and then this here. But then because it's running through the loop quite fast, so it's using the same number over and over again to add to the blocks. So what we want to do is, I think shorthanded didn't work there, so let's try this. Because we wanted to just to randomize slightly rather than just having multiple colors the same way. Okay, so far so good. Okay, nice. Alright, so that works. The score is updating as well. What we need to do now is we need to check if the player and the blocks collide, right? And we also need to make sure like their background color is exactly the same as each other. So if player dot intersect with player dot bounds, x dot bounds, right? And if player dot back color is not equals to x dot back color, so if they are not the same, then we can stop the game timer. Okay, and the listbox 1, so we can say here listbox 1 dot items dot insert. We are going to insert an item inside of the list box, but the reason we're using the insert instead of add is because when we add something, it gets added to the bottom. So whatever value that there is, it will add to the bottom of it. But what we want to do is we want the latest values to be added to the top of the list, right? So in the insert one, we look for something called the index. So which index does this value goes inside of? So we want to give index of 0, so it's right at the top. And then say here scored. So how much did you score? That's the score there. And then say at space at, right, and then space again. So plus format. So we're going to format the date and time. Okay, so we just want the time really. So what time did you score that particular score, and we're going to add it to the list box. So what we're going to do here is 0. We're not interested in that. So the hour, the minute, the time. Okay, so long as that gets formatted over, and then say date time now. So out of the date and time, we are just interested in the hour and the minute. You can also have the seconds as well, but you know, I think hour and the minute should be just fine. Okay, so we're stopping the timer, we're doing that, and then obviously the last thing to do is set game over to true. So this way we can actually test if the AreKeys are working. Okay, so let's try that. Oh, alright, cool. So see, it added 0 at 6:25. So if I press R, okay, I'll let go. Score 2. I'll let that one crash. So I get score 2 at 6:25 as well. Okay. Score 0, so it's adding it. Okay, that's pretty cool. So one last thing we need to do is we need to add the bit where once you score 10, we want the speed to go up, right? So if let's say the score is greater than 10, we can have speed equals to 12. So run this now, and let me try to play this. Okay, white again. Okay, see, so it actually speeds up as soon as you go over 10, right? So it becomes a bit more challenging to play. So you can just, you know, play around with the settings and see, you know, which one works right for you. Hopefully, you know, this has been an interesting tutorial. We tried a few different things, and you know, made a few mistakes here and there, but it was all good. So hopefully you guys had fun with that, and I will see you in the next one.